Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. Happy Halloween, David. What's new?
Happy Halloween, Jessie. Good to be back on the podcast. I don't know what's new. It's kind of a weird week. It's Halloween. It's I don't know. It's going to be probably, I don't know, but just a crazy night for a lot of people. So it should be fun.
Absolutely.
But
first, everyone's still sitting at their desk on LinkedIn. And if you only have this for a glimpse in time, of course, you can go binge it on all your favorite podcast apps later on, because we have a really great guest today. Today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome on Daniel Cmejla. Oh my goodness. Co-founder, I'm going to say, of Something New. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're excited to have you on the show, Daniel. And we're going to ask you to kick it off for us, for our listeners and viewers who may not know who you are. Love for you to give a little bit of background. I've heard some great things about some of the work that you've done, turning companies, into some amazing growth numbers, over 300% or something since you joined them. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your story as well. So I'm going to let you kick it off.
Sure. I'll be brief. Kind of. I'll be as brief as I can. So I am a persuasion specialist in the political arena turned SaaS marketer. I've worked at a couple companies that have had a lot of growth. I was the founder of Modern Sales Pros, or the general manager, the first employee there. Grew that community of sales leaders up from around 1,000 members to 14,000 members. Then joined a company called Chili Piper. When I joined, we were getting about 15,000 organic impressions per month. When I left, that number was about 3 million. Did some work on the political side and then came back, worked at a company called Apollo. Organic impressions were about 30,000 when I joined and reaching around 6 million per month, all organic when I left. And kind of the red thread across all these companies has actually been operating in spaces that aren't as easily trackable. So I'm excited to talk about that today because, if you operate just within the confines of what's easy to track, then you're going to operate in spaces with a lot of competition. So I'm just happy to be here, and I can't wait to talk.
Awesome. Well, that's a great segue.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great segue into attribution, which is something that's not easily trackable, right? And so we'd love to get your take on this.
Yeah, well, it's like if you're sitting in a marketing boardroom or whatever, and you are selling a software, you're going to try and drive forward a narrative about what that software does. There have been a lot of softwares over the last few years, 6 Sense being probably the primary one there, that has been driving forward these narratives that are just kind of marketing narratives. And one of those is that we can track everything down to the myopic level. But what I would put forth is that a lot of the best marketing, the marketing where I've had success, first company I was at in SaaS, like Chili Piper, I guess the second company, we raised about 54 million, increased our valuation a lot while I was there, over 5x. And then Apollo, raised 100 million, over $1 billion valuation. And both of these companies I came in, and then immediately after joining, there's a massive spike in inbound demo requests. And part of the reason for that isn't because we're asking people to share some sort of UTM parameter or whatever. It's because we're treating people like real humans, I was the VP of community at both of these companies. And my belief is that community marketing is marketing through your customers versus to your customers. But when you market through your customers, you're kind of ceding control of that narrative to some extent. And it works when you have a product that people love, like an authentic, organically loved product. So when people are out there organically advocating for your product, that is a major green flag, right? And that is that's the type of marketing that I like to try to occupy.
So it's definitely an interesting take. And so here we are, we're speaking to, hundreds, maybe thousands of SMBs out there, that are, a lot of them are very marketing centric. And so they're all trying to reach, similar customers, right? And so what do they need to do to differentiate themselves and build a community like that?
Yeah, well, one of the interesting things is marketing tends to come in patterns, right? There'll be a marketing tactic and then it'll be massively adopted and then there'll be diminishing returns. And we can look at it Look at outbound email, for example. Or we could even go before that. Like back in the day, a lot of marketing and sales was about relationships. You had these guys, it was a boys club back then, it still is, who had their literal Rolodex. They would roll through, they call Steve and be like, buy more paper or whatever, like buy this thing. And then like as one-to-one personal relationships kind of fell out of parlance as new people came in, and there was all kinds of new softwares arising, and like the S&B grew and started competing more with these enterprise companies that kind of owned everything. Then we had kind of email, right? Everyone's sending emails, but then those stop working. And then you have like the outreaches and the inside sales and the sales lofts of the world. They enable mass personalization of email, and that's working. And then that filters down. And then, you know, the pandemic hits and everyone goes to digital events, and then that stops working, right? So like as soon as you hit at a point that works, it's not going to be long before that point becomes cannibalized and everyone oversaturates it, right? So I believe that the best marketing and the best way to reach your audience is to first like try to understand like where your audience is, and then how do you occupy that intellectual space. And not only how do you occupy it, but how do you have your customers occupy it, right? Because I could go out here and I could say, you know, I work for Kamala Harris now. I could say go for Kamala Harris because like clearly we need to save democracy in America. But obviously I have a bias in that. Like I work for her. I live in Vermont. Like it's when everyday people, customers or real voters or whoever, like speak their truth that you reach an authentic message. And then ensuring that message reaches people, that is kind of where the sweet spot is. So what I would say to folks trying to understand like, hey, how do I market in this modern era where there's a VC backing 10 different tools in every category and they're all competing with each other and it's wild? I would say it starts from simply asking your customers. Not too many people do this all the time. Like ask your customers, what's influencing you? What podcasts do you listen to? What news journals are you listening to? Who do you follow on LinkedIn? You know, how do you respond when you see display ads on what platform, right? Your customers will build this map. I call it an influence map. And then from this influence map, you can understand like what's driving them to make decisions, to make buying decisions, to make educational decisions around how they think about the product. Once you have this influence map, the question becomes, how do you deploy your voice there? And your voice is not your voice. Your voice should be the customer's voice. So how do you deploy the customer voice to those spaces? And then when you do it, then you can drive forward a lot of value. And it happens organically. I'm not going to tell a customer who says, hey, I love this, it's so great. I'm not going to say, great, post about it, attach these UTM parameters. I'm just going to say post about it. And if you have like an enlightened CMO or CEO, then that reflects itself not in like myopic attribution on the campaign level, but it reflects itself in website traffic, in demos, and things like that. So that's where I've been very fortunate to find a lot of success. At all these companies I've been at, I've had incredible teams. When I worked at Chili Piper, a decent chunk of the team followed me to Apollo afterwards. And so I've just been really lucky to manage great people, and we built this together.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think you hit on a really good point. I mean, a lot of people, when they think about asking their customers questions to learn about their customers, they're more looking at learning about who they are and what their needs are. But they don't. I've never heard someone, suggest asking where they are. You know,
yeah,
I think that's a really, really interesting point. Because if you understand where your customers are, right? Like you said, what podcasts they're listening to, what they're reading, these things can help you, understand where you need to be in order to reach more customers like them. And that's just, to me, that's enlightening. I'm glad you shared that.
I'm glad, David. I'm like, you know so much about all this stuff. So if I can add one little thing to your knowledge, then it's already been a victory here. Because if you're learning something, the audience definitely is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, like too often we focus on customers just for monetary outcomes. Like, what's that aha moment when they're using the product? How do we prevent them from churning? We don't focus on advocacy outcomes, right? But if you focus on advocacy outcomes with your customers, how do I get a customer to feel so good about this tool? They're going to go on LinkedIn and just talk about it. Then you're actually, I think, driving towards a more authentic long-term relationship, right? It's not extractive. It's like a true partnership, right? When your customer truly believes that advocating for your tool is going to be the best thing to share with their network, who they're also trying to find value with, that's when you found like not only product market fit, I'm going to try and coin something right now. It's like product customer advocacy fit. right? I just made that up now. I don't know if it's a thing or not, but it's like, that is a sign that you're really succeeding. And like the goal to that isn't to place them in these myopic attribution paths, is to really invest in them, to listen, to like build a genuine relationship with them and have a product that genuinely provides value. And there's one further step, to build relationships with the very customers who sharing that message will help drive forward their goals, right? Like there's an intersection of the customer goals and your goals as a marketer. And those aren't always just purely based on the software being successful. Sometimes it's based on their ability to like drive business to their consulting company or whatever it is, right? So seeking to understand, it's like a Mark Twain quote, right? Like my dad told me all these quotes as a kid, and then later I found out they were all Mark Twain. But one was, he was like, "Oh, do this, Dan." I was like, "Well, you didn't attribute Mark Twain, Dad." But seek to understand, then be understood. Like if you truly seek to understand your customers beyond just their ARR value as humans and as people growing a career, then you're able to uniquely serve them. And that's what marketing and products about. It's about serving the customer.
That's really good. And I do have to highlight David for a second, because he is that kind of marketing minded CEO that, you know, when we started changing the web forms on the website, we could have that open-ended space to ask, how did you hear about us? Which helped justify some of the dark social stuff I was advocating for, like LinkedIn and LinkedIn live stream. And stuff like that. And you're right. Sometimes you don't hear about attribution until later on. You're in that demo conversation or you're having a customer conversation. And then you learn that people heard about you through something that attribution software never would have caught in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. And attribution software, it doesn't even show you what's happening. It just shows you what you're measuring better, right? There's a software, I don't want to rip on them because I really like them. They're good people there. But it helps you get attribution off your demo, off your blog pages. Like we'll show you who's engaging with your blog and blah, 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 blah. And then you download that software, you pay for it, you implement it, you have this like change management, whatever. Your MOPS team does all this stuff. It distracts them from the other stuff. It doesn't actually show you what's working. It just shows you what you're doing a better job at measuring, right? Because like you can say, hey, look, we're measuring all this stuff from our blog now, but you're not measuring from organic social. You're not measuring from word of mouth. So like, unless you have like a holistic, like filter for attribution, and there are some companies that do a great job of this. One of them is Paramark. They do a really good job about it. But like, unless you're actually looking at the holistic attribution picture, what you're just doing is like indexing off what you're doing a better job measuring. You're not indexing off what actually works. Here's another great example of this. Like you take out ads on your keywords, right? Like I take out a word on, you know, the best president ever, right? And Kamala Harris shows up or whatever. And then, okay, let's do a software one. You take out an ad on like lead attribution software, like lead routing or whatever. And then people search and they find Chili Piper. And then your SEO marketer, your demand gen marketer is like, look at this. Like we drove all of this stuff through taking out these ads on our keywords. We're amazing. Look at all this. Wow, we need to keep doing this. But what it's actually showing is what you should be measuring is what caused them to Google in the first place. Like, or even let's say you take out ads on your own name. Like people Google Chili Piper and they click on the Chili Piper ad at the top, which you put there because you don't want like lean data or whatever to steal your web traffic. Like it's not the ad that drove that demand. It's something before, like what caused them to Google it. So like attribution is just so complicated and a lot of people index off it. And there's a huge moral hazard there because they're indexing off the wrong things. And the other thing is like, we're kidding ourselves if we don't think marketers are just trying to stack attribution in their favor, right? Like the sales reps want everything to be self-serve because they get paid more. The marketers want it all to associate with their programs. Like there is a serious moral hazard. People trying to justify their job and get a raise or justify their budget versus like truly understand what's happening.
Yeah, that's something that's always frustrated me because I'll look at our Google results and I'll see all of these, you know, keyword queries that came through under BDEX. And it's frustrating to me. Like, I'm always like, okay, so somebody searched BDEX. Why? You know, where did they hear about us before that? Like what happened before that to make them actually want to type in BDEX and then come to us that way? And so that's always been like a frustration for me. It's like, I want to know what happened before that search, you know?
Yeah, and, like, I found that I have so much privilege, not just in general in life, but as a marketer, having so much success, with my programs that they kinda let me do what I want, and then I'll find out afterwards that these things work. Like, when I was at Apollo, there was a week where we it was the best week of our demo request in our history and the best week of web traffic, more than when we raised $100 million. And everyone's like, "Do you know what happened this week?" And I went back and it correlated exactly with a viral moment, where one of our larger competitors, ZoomInfo, attacked us on LinkedIn, and then we kind of spun it in a way, and we had over 60 customers say, "I love Apollo. No one's ever paid me to do it, but I just
Mhm.
love it." And then those 60 posts correlated directly with this spike in web traffic and demo flow. And I found out after the fact, right? And it's like, oftentimes those causal relationships or those correlations, it's really difficult to get it started. So my suggestion would be like, try some things that are untrackable, but are just make sense, right? And then look on your website traffic to see if there was a spike there, or your demo flow to see if there's a spike there, especially if you have a PLG company. That's one way to validate these things, because oftentimes marketers spend just as much time focused on attributing things as they do actually doing the work. And I've gotten way ahead by for the teams that I serve being like, just do the work and I got your back. Like, do the work and I will find a way to make sure we get credit for it. Or if we don't, I'll take the L, because it's like teams also, in addition to like doing the job and not obsessing about marketing, they need to feel comfortable failing, and they need kind of managers who serve them who are willing to kind of be there for them when they fail so they can take risks.
100% true. Absolutely. And with that, we should probably move into our next topic because, I could talk attribution all day long,
Yeah.
or even, like anti attribution, but we'll move into the relationship between organic social, web traffic, and conversions. And you kind of already mentioned a really great scenario there with one of them, where you were able to correlate what was happening on social with, a spike in conversion. So talk to us a little bit more about this. And for those marketers out there who haven't experienced that, like what could you teach them?
Mm, yeah, I guess I did already give like the greatest example that I have from this over the last year, but there are a bunch of other examples I can give as well. For marketers who haven't done this, I would say like take off your marketing hat for a second, put on your human hat. Like, put on a hat for like a real human. Like, and I would go back to the very first thing I said, like, part of your human hat is asking other real humans who are customers, like, what influences them, what they do. Like, we see this problem in politics all the time now, where like we're so focused on myopically drilling down on these subsets of different racial identities or geographical identities or whatever, with this hyper targeting, that we sometimes forget like the true things that are like fundamentals to marketing, like concepts like freedom, like democracy, things like that. And it's similar in SaaS as well, and in marketing. So let me give one other example, and then I can give some advice. When I was at Chili Piper, um, I was working with this incredible team. Taylor Boger was our head of customer marketing at the time, and we came up with this idea together to like turn everyone in our customer advisory board into a Pokemon card. So basically, like we went to this meeting. The customer advisory board was about 50 people, our 50 best customers. Some had big brands, some had little brands. And in this meeting, we asked everyone, what's your professional superpower and what's your work superpower? And then 3 months later, in the next customer advisory board meeting, they all received a Pokemon card that that like had a QR code leading to their LinkedIn. It had their powers on there. It was a deck. They all received the full deck, and they received one case to put their own card in. And of these 50 people, about 45 reposted this to LinkedIn. And the average impressions there were about 10,000 impressions. So, and then there were other people who kind of echoed it and said, wow, this is amazing marketing, blah, blah, blah. Our company posted about it. We ended up reaching over 1 million people organically. The deck, aside from the design efforts, this incredible graphic designer, Caitlin Barr, she did it, but it wasn't too expensive to produce. The decks cost us about $20 per deck. And the average deck reached 10,000 people. So like there's some form of attribution there where I can take my total cost, the cost of the graphic design plus the cost of the deck production and shipping, some other labor as well, like the creative from the marketing team. And I can take the average cost and divide it by the average organic impressions. And I come back with a cost per impression, right? And that's not going to be like this led to this demo or whatever. But if you look at the way that you run ads, you have like a cost per click or a cost per impression for an ad. You can do that from the organic side just with gifting, right? So I always thought that was really powerful. And then what happened? You know, if you search in Gong calls, Pokemon, it starts coming up. Heard on LinkedIn, that starts coming up. Like there are all kinds of ways that you can determine attribution. Like Nolan McCoy, a former employee of mine, started really drilling down on I think it's owner.com where he works. I don't know. Nolan, I'm sorry if you're reading this. I don't remember where you work, but he's amazing. A really gifted marketer. He like skyrocketed their YouTube. And then they just searched in Gong YouTube. And then they back attributed a lot of these demos to YouTube because people are saying, I heard of this first through YouTube. And then that's a very clever way to do it. So it's like, let the people be people, let the marketers market, let the customers market, and then kind of the rest of it will flow. One other example before I kind of pass it back to the moot here was sending bespoke art to people. Like this is another thing. Like how do you do the things at scale that you can't do at scale? But there's a gifted marketing operations professional. Her name's Sarah McNamara. She's so gifted. I've tried to work with her everywhere I've gone. And someday, Sarah, if you're reading this, I believe we'll work together someday. I can't wait. But we sent her this picture that just said respect marketing ops. And then she, a couple days later, because she liked Chili Piper and like also appreciated it, posted this architecture of like how a lead flow can function within Chili Piper and how it goes. And then she posted at the end of that her own UTM. The UTM was Sarah McNamara is awesome, which I was like, wow, that's so cool. I would never ask her to post a UTM. That would ruin it. I didn't even ask her to post this content at all. I just gave her a gift without expecting anything in return. But that UTM drove over 500 people to our website. What we found was that UTM, the people who were driven from that UTM were higher intent people who shared something similar with Sarah. Sarah's a marketing operations leader. Guess who everybody's marketing to? Marketing operations leaders. They're part of the buying committee now. It's super important. So it's like that was another great example of how, organic social leads to website traffic. And it was just random that we were able to track that one. But I took that one instance, like an experiment, and I extrapolated it out more broadly. So I want your thoughts on this, and then I can kind of tell the audience how you can do this to get buy-in.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard some really good success stories from gifting. So these are great examples as well. I had a colleague of mine that had a business selling office supplies. It's crazy, it's simple. Mm-hmm. It's Dunder Mifflin, right? I mean, it's basically, not paper, but it's office supplies. But he actually sent a toilet to his biggest clients, and he filled that toilet like a real toilet bowl. And then he filled it with all, whatever paper goods that they sold for offices. And it was kind of like this ridiculous thing that he decided to do. And every one of those, customers took pictures of it, put it online, and just blew it up. And it was just like, sometimes you can just do some of the most ridiculous kind of gifting ideas, but they could just blow up. Exactly.
Yeah. And then like when marketers are blinded by a CMO breathing down their neck for tracked, qualified, held meetings and them showing up in the CRM, it restrains the ability for marketers to be creative and do these things that are actually working, because they don't care about what's working. They care about what's working and is measurable in the CRM that they can associate with their specific programs. So like, I totally agree. For the listener, if you want to do some of this cool stuff, here's how I'd suggest you do it. Find a couple awesome campaigns, maybe a gifting campaign, maybe a viral social campaign, maybe an employee-generated content campaign, and then loop them all into the same week. So your gifting campaign hits, your customer love campaign hits, your organic social takeover from employees hit. You get your CEO to post on LinkedIn for the first time, because goodness knows they should all be doing that. And then after that week, especially if you have a PLG flow, then you look at things aside from direct attribution. You look at website traffic, you look at demo flow, you look at demo requests, you look at mentions of LinkedIn in Gong calls that week. And then you can create kind of like a causal relationship between these campaigns and what's actually happening in your pipeline. And then once you've done that, then you just use that to like cut through the bureaucracy, especially if you have an enlightened CEO or CMO. They're like, well, we did this one thing for a week, wasn't even a lot of work, and look what happened, 20% lift to website traffic. What is it? I'm just curious. What do you think it is? Like addition by subtraction. Did we do anything else? Did we ramp our ad spend during this time? What else happened? Nothing else happened. Okay, I have a hunch that this organic social stuff's working. Let's hire somebody. Let's do a 3-month experiment. We'll hire someone as a consultant. We'll do this hardcore for 3 months. We have attribution on everything else apart from the organic stuff, so we should know if it's working. You can also look at the referring website and then remove your ads from it. That's another great way to do it, like how many people came from LinkedIn. That can be a misnomer because everyone's just wasting their time on LinkedIn and then they go to your website, but there are a bunch of ways to do it. Come up with some great campaigns that are human campaigns. Place the customer in the center of those campaigns. Run them at the same time, and then look at what happens to your pipeline over a week holistically.
That's really brilliant. And I know exactly who Sarah McNamara is. I mean, like, I feel like every
She's so good.
marketer, she's amazing. I mean, I don't know her, but she puts out really excellent marketing content that if you're not following her and you're listening to this, you should definitely go follow her. I believe, is she still at the very large CRM that I'm just not going to name, working for?
I think she works at Slack. But
Slack
if we don't want to, the CRM that shall not be named. What's going on? Is Salesforce like Voldemort or something? Like what's happening?
I'm not a fan personally, so that's why I'm just like, meh. But
well,
she's amazing.
Betsy has an affiliation with another one, so.
But even before then, I was always like, I don't know if we need this. But I digress. But yeah, that's the only reason I said that. But
sorry, I blew it up. I'm like, there we go. But it's probably not good PR for them, but yeah. Anyway, I've got space in my heart for a bunch of different CRMs.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of different companies can do a lot of different things with different CRMs, It's interesting how some of them customize it to their own unique way, but I digress. I mean, that all these contacts and leads we bring in one way or another, they have to go live somewhere. So in terms of organic social web traffic and conversions, anything else you might want to share, or David, anything else you want to touch on before we transition into the third topic?
No, I'm good here, and I'm actually really interested in getting to the next topic.
Okay. You shouldn't have asked if there's anything else, because I have one last thing to add here.
Okay.
And like,
Okay. Well,
you can probably tell I could talk about anything like forever, but it's like people need to stop seeing social media managers as the bottom of the totem pole, right? Like your social media manager needs to do so much. They're posting more content than anyone else. They're posting like 3 times a day. They need to reply to hundreds of comments every day. They need to understand all the products. They need to be in touch with the product team for all the product releases. It's just like one of the most difficult, nuanced jobs in SaaS, but often it's something relegated to people who are super junior. Like I've over-indexed on social at every company I've been at in the last few years, primarily because of Mejla, who's this gifted social media manager who functions more like a head of marketing. And that's what I'm going to say. Like, if you really want to double down on organic, like actually put your money where your mouth is, pay your social media manager $150,000 plus a year, and they will drive more than a lot of your traditional demand gen marketers. Like that is my hill to die on. Like social media is huge, but it's not easy to do well. And then the people who've done it well, they're not going to take another social media manager job unless you pay them. They'll get a job as like a head of marketing. Outsized gains for outsized investments.
It's interesting. It's a great point too. I mean, do you really want to have some intern being the face of your brand and the voice of your brand? And I know a lot of times like that's what you'll see is, someone getting someone right out of college to manage their Facebook or something, which it's great to get you off. If that's what's going to get you started, great. But it is important to have someone professional to I am saying Facebook. I don't know why, because I'm never on Facebook, but
Well,
LinkedIn.
there's that joke.
What was
There's
that?
that joke about organic reach on Facebook, but nobody heard the joke. Spooky.
Yeah, exactly.
So bad, so bad. But yeah, I mean, like at Apollo, we went from 14,000 followers to 108,000 followers in about 16 months. And by the end of it, we were generating over 1 million organic impressions every month just on the company page. People are always like, oh, company pages don't get reach or whatever. Maybe you're just posting stuff that's trash. Like maybe you're not talking like a real human on your company page. Like maybe all of your content in your company page goes through 5 different stages of corporate sterilization to the point where it has no personality. Certainly, that's been my experience working with enlightened CEOs, CMOs, when they let us kind of do our thing and be fun and be real. And when you observe other companies like Gong, who are actually crushing on social, they're speaking like humans, not like companies. Like, because, and I'm a B2B guy, it's B2B, but inherently social media is human to human. You're not marketing to the company accounts of these enterprise companies. You're marketing to the humans who are there.
100%.
Sure.
So true. And sometimes we overthink it, but really people are people. But this is an interesting topic. So we were talking about it a little bit pre-show that I don't think on deconstructing data we've ever talked about anything related to a finite list of contacts. But when you're marketing, you will have a total addressable market. Like there is a certain number of people that are likely in your TAM. So let's talk about the oversaturation of outbound to a finite list of contacts. And so then just to define outbound, we're talking about like when you're going out cold and calling outbound or emailing outbound to your entire list. But it's just so big. Like you only have so many people. So could you kick us off on this topic, Dan?
Sure. I mean, I worked at a company that basically procured lists for Outbound Apollo, and I love them. And there's so many good people there, and I support them. So I think oversaturation is often as much a byproduct of just like not understanding your ICP as it is, or just like poor tactics as much as it is like an actual oversaturation. Because like if you have a product that actually provides value to somebody, like they should theoretically want to evaluate it. You just have to get them to know. But then there's the flip side of this where it's like what we have like 10,000 companies targeting just the Fortune 500, right? They build their entire business off it. Like one enterprise deal is like huge for them. It's like, a couple months runway or something. So of that, you have like a list of people. Like let's look at cybersecurity, like CISOs, like how many companies are selling cybersecurity stuff just to the Fortune 500, just to the Fortune 1000, right? So basically, like it's creating what we talked about earlier, these herding patterns in outbound that can lead to diminishing returns. And you see Google and other companies trying to restrain this with their spam rules and stuff like that because it's becoming somewhat untenable. But like the easier you make it to build an outbound process, the easier it is for people to do that outbound process, which means the more the people on the receiving end are going to be receiving this outbound process, right? So I do believe there is an oversaturation that's happening, and it will naturally correct itself in a couple ways. One of which is, tactics will evolve. People will start calling more, and then like, look what happens. Like we have Nooks and Orem and all these parallel dialers that are making it easier to call people all the time. And then when those are mass adopted, there'll be an oversaturation there of those phone numbers and so on and so forth. It's like Dragon Ball Z. Maybe everyone won't get this reference, but it's like it keeps eating itself. Like if you watch Dragon Ball Z, not even a huge fan. I'm kind of a fan, but it's like they fight the villain becomes the good guy. And then they all go fight the next villain together who becomes the good guy. Like that's what's happening with SaaS eating itself, not only with the oversaturation of these lists, but just like the way the tools work, like inside sales. I think it's Zant now. I don't remember what it's called now. Basically, they did everything. And then Outreach came in and they did the emailing really well. And SalesLoft came in and they took their entire SMB and mid-market so that inside sales focused just on enterprise, right? And then someone else comes along and they do something that Outreach does really well. Apollo does a great job of taking out some of the stuff from Outreach and enabling larger scale outbound, or or just like to combine the data source and the email in one group together. And then, so Apollo is looking to be a unified platform, and then somebody like Nooks comes along and they take the dialer and focus in on that too much. So, we are having a saturation of these channels, and I do feel bad for the people at the top of it. I had to declare inbox bankruptcy once because I was getting so much email from sales reps all the time. But I think honestly, the solution for this isn't just to change your tactics on outbound, but it's to truly understand your ICP, because it's like nothing causes an oversaturation more than emailing the wrong person. So like my hope is that as we get more sophisticated and the data becomes better and more targeted, and we have more things to pull from, like de-anonymizing website visitors and retargeting them that way, like this will enable us to do better outbound, or like quasi outbound, like warm bound from people who've already showed a lot of intent. And that will solve the problem somewhat. Because like on one side, you're spamming these people and there's a huge amount of oversaturation. The other side, these people are struggling using software that's not the best for what they actually need. So if you can bridge those two connections, then you're actually providing value to people. That's what sales should be about. It should be about connecting someone with a need with something that serves that need. But to do that, you first have to get in touch with them. So it can be kind of difficult.
Mm. I like what you said.
Good
about
point. And I'm glad.
Go ahead,
I'm glad
David.
you mentioned de-anonymizing website visitors, because that's something that we do. So,
tell me more about it.
And yeah, I mean, look, we operate a comprehensive identity graph, and we built a tool that is a hybrid tool, right? A lot of people were building tools just based on cookies, and then a lot of people were building tools that are cookieless. We went and built a hybrid tool that uses both cookies and cookieless identifiers, identify consumers going to a website, and then enabling you to not only use that for retargeting purposes, but also attribution. Maybe you're doing some sort of campaign and you're trying to understand, is that campaign working? But how do you do that if, you can do it based on conversions, or you can do it based on attribution? And so we're able to use sort of that same data to help, build an attribution layer that helps you understand, is that effort working? Are you driving people to the site? And, of those people that you're driving to the site, who are they? So
that's awesome. Yeah. So that would solve both the attribution, partially solve both the attribution crisis and the oversaturation crisis, because we're both understanding what has brought people to our website at a certain time frame, which then we can correlate to the campaigns we're running at the time, even if they're organic without UTMs. And we're solving the oversaturation problem because we're able to kind of hone in more on who actually needs our product, who's actively researching our product, and retarget them that way. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we can go full circle in the sense that we can actually build audiences against that. So understanding from that data, the people that actually are coming to the website, who they are based on a number of attributes, and then basically use that to fine tune your targeting.
Cool. All right. What's next?
Let's keep it moving. So I don't know. Yeah, the oversaturation of outbound. I don't think I have anything else to add on that, but I think it's such an interesting topic. David, I'm curious too, like if someone felt like they had this situation, what would BDEX advise them to do? Like, could they take their best first party customers, like take their first party customer data, their best customers, and really kind of understand them, because maybe their best customers aren't who they think they are. And there's always room to learn. I don't know. It's just, when I saw this as a topic, that's what I thought was like, well, BDEX could help them if they thought this was the issue. Because a lot of the time,
yeah. So I'm sorry, I cut you off, but that's one of the things we talk about, right? A lot of companies don't truly know who their ICP is, right? They think they know, but you don't really know until you get to know your customers, right? And so it goes back to what Daniel was saying earlier, asking questions, asking your customers questions to understand them, understand who they are, what their needs are, but also where they are, which I love. But one of the things that we then do is take that data that we're, those visitors that are coming to your site, use that to understand who your customers are, right? And then we use that to build audiences and retarget and all kinds of good stuff like that. So,
and it's like to like 1,000, segments, like literally understanding what they watch on TV and, a whole bunch of different things. I loved the story that Michael, the chief data officer, shared one time about, was it mattresses and pets? And like, they wanted to know what the outliers or what the differences were with their customers who bought online and their customers who bought mattresses in person. And it was like, the only statistical significant thing was pet owners. Like if they had a pet, then they were more likely, I can't remember, was it buy online or buy in person?
Be a good person.
Think about it.
But, to just learn from your existing customer data more so that you can better target them.
I want to clarify, not everyone can have a pet for a variety of reasons. So you can be a good person without a pet, even if I like people with pets more.
You can be a good person without a pet, but then it's the pet that decides whether you're a good person. So like if my dog meets you, he'll know right away whether you're a good person.
That's
if he growls at you, then sorry.
One
if he doesn't trust you, I don't trust you.
That's
my
understanding
motto.
your ICP. I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
I was just saying, if my dog doesn't trust you, then I don't trust you. That's just
there we go. Your dog loves me, so you should definitely hire me for some sort of consulting gig after this. We're best friends. Just kidding. So one thing on like understand your ICP that I love. There's this guy, mentor and friend of mine, Craig Handy, who runs an incredible consultancy now, but formerly he was the director of sales execution and evolution at some huge company that I can't remember right now, but definitely worthy of respect. And basically what they found was that they looked at their close won customers, Qualtrics, I think. No, it wasn't Qualtrics. It doesn't matter what it is. Shopify, duh. Okay, Shopify. Okay. So they looked at their close won customers because they had a lead scoring model that would like send people who weren't going to go through a PLG flow to some sort of like white paper or whatever. And then they looked at that versus their close won customer base. And they found that their close won customers didn't match the lead scoring criteria that they put in there. It only matched like a certain percentage of the time. So like playing around with understanding who your ICP is, like really seeking to understand that will change everything, both on an outbound efficiency level, but also on an inbound lead flow level. So it's just really important to do that. I can't stress it enough.
It's a really good point.
I agree 100%. Good one.
Yeah. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you all. So I have to say, this is the first I've really thought about SaaS marketing in the last month. I've been on the road for Kamala Harris the whole time, just trying to do everything I can to get people to vote. And I know we're talking about SaaS here, but if you're listening now, I really encourage you to vote as well. It's a really important time for us.
Yes, voting for sure. And but we're almost to time, and we haven't asked you about your favorite tech tools. So real quick, could you tell us, what are your favorite tools in your tech stack? What does the best marketer out there right now have in their tech stack?
Oh gosh, it really depends on what kind of marketer you are. Obviously, I'm a LinkedIn boy. So LinkedIn is my top tool that I use. And then beyond that, I believe there's like efficiency tools. So tools like Text Expander, tools like Better Snap tools that enable you to do more. And then like, I was at this point recently, I was doing this event, and then all of a sudden they're like, do 4 more events at the same time, 1,000 people at every event. By the way, the events are in 5 days. And I was like, I am not going to be able to do this unless I create process around it. So any tool that enables you to create process, that enables you to create tooling, which makes delegation more efficient, enables you to create templates that make things more efficient. So like, let's say LinkedIn is the tool you're using. How do you use a tool like Text Expander or something to increase the efficiency in which you do it? How do you use a tool like Better Snap tools to navigate your tabs more quickly? Things like that. Like, how do you teach your team how to be experts at spreadsheets so they don't waste time? Like, how do you use keyboard shortcuts so you don't have to move your mouse? Like, I think about the fact that I don't use my mouse to navigate my tabs. And I think about my competitors, and I'm like, I'm gaining a second, 5 seconds on you every single time you shift a tab. It seems small, but those add up. So my top tool is definitely LinkedIn, because like that is where this organic stuff is happening. Beyond that, I love HubSpot. I love a lot of these CRMs. They're really cool. It could be nice to have like a de-anonymization tool to create warm responses from people who already have existing intent. Like you want to be there when people are searching for your keywords, when they're on your website. That's such a moment, such a precious moment. And if you squander that moment, it's going to totally blow things for you, right? Any tool that enables you to have a PLG flow, I love as well, because when you have a PLG flow, then you can go from organic social to revenue, which is just awesome. Like I can go viral on LinkedIn for Apollo, and then people would download and pay for the tool that day. Like that is so beautiful. But I got to give it to my friends at LinkedIn. That is the top tool that I use. A lot of marketers get really fancy. My top tools are LinkedIn, and then like some sort of Asana or something for task management, or even like like something that has your OKRs kind of mirror down, that has them waterfall down to each other. But it's like sometimes people get too fancy. Like we live in a space with the fusion of AI content that makes like a human experience more rare, right? So like how do you create authentic human interactions and then showcase them in the spaces that are influencing people? Oftentimes that's LinkedIn for me. Please vote, everybody. Please vote.
Yeah, LinkedIn Live being one of them. But in closing, Dan, would you like to tell listeners how they could find you and, what you're going to be up to after the election if they want to reach out to you?
Well, I'm available for hire. My LinkedIn URL is linkedin.com/in/great marketing. I snagged that URL earlier. Hopefully,
Nice.
if I work for you, you'll see great marketing. But yeah, once the campaign's over, I'm going to take a month, spend time with my dogs. I haven't been home for almost a month. I'm going to play some music. I'm going to relax. And then I'm going to dive back in. So I'm hoping to take on 4 clients at about 10 hours a month. And I've already got 2 of those locked up. So if you want to work together, please reach out to me now, because I can't wait to work with you.
Very cool. Well, awesome. It's been
Awesome.
great talking with you. Thanks for sticking a minute over. I know you have to run to go plan your next event.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to kind of share the stage with you all and to learn more about your cool tool. And Jesse, I've been a huge fan of yours for a really long time. And David, it's great to kind of finally be able to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really glad you joined us today. This was a great conversation. I think our listeners got some great information. Appreciate your time. And I'm going to let Jesse close it out for us.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just take over the screen and tell you all about beatx.com. You should head on over there. I put a QR code on the screen. So if you're watching this on video, you can scan that. If not, and you're on podcast, just go to beatx.com, click on talk to an expert, because we would love to help you build your most authentic audience. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but we make it really simple for you to take your first party customer data and learn from it. And you heard from David as well. There's work to be done on your website when there's visitors there. So let us make it easy for you to help you understand your audience and when and where they're visiting you. So reach out to us, scan that QR code, visit the website, and reach out to our experts. We would love to help you. And with that, we'll see you next week for another great Deconstructing Data. Happy Halloween, everyone.